Are you ready to start your own show? Look no further than Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV's unbeatable hosting packages. We have hosting packages for all your live streaming needs. Introducing our basic, standard, and premium plans designed to fit your show's unique needs. With our basic plan, you get hosting and streaming only to Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV platforms, technical support, and a full hour of captivating content. Choose our standard plan, and you'll not only enjoy everything in the basic plan, but also receive promotions on our Facebook page and the freedom to stream to your personal platform, Facebook or YouTube. Your show, your choice. And for those who demand the best, our premium plan offers all the benefits of the basic and standard plans, plus the ability to multi-stream to your preferred platforms. That's right, the spotlight's on you. But wait, there's more. Are you planning an unforgettable event? Our events package is your ticket to flawless live streaming. From weddings to conferences, we make every moment count. Ready to shine on Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV. Reach out to us today at zbtr2009@gmail.com for questions, inquiries, or to create a custom one-time show package. Remember, at Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV, your success is our mission. All fees are subject to periodic review and change, ensuring you always get the best value. So, what are you waiting for? Let's make your show a sensation only on Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV. Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV, where vision comes to life. Follow our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Zambia Blog Radio or visit our website at www.zbtr2009.wixsite.com/ZBTR TV. Don't miss this opportunity to shine on ZBTR TV, where your vision comes to life.
Hi everyone, welcome to the show. It's exciting to be back and to have everybody here to join us. Please tag a friend and let them know that ZBTR TV is live. We're going to be delving into a very, very heavy hitting subject here. And if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, it's ZBTR TV. And we are also on Facebook at Zambia Blog Talk Radio and on X, which used to be Twitter. You can find us there. So welcome, and it's exciting to be here. Let me welcome my panel here as we get ready to dive into this. Hi, Alan.
Hi, I'm excited for this program. Like you said, it's a very heavy hitting one.
Yeah, it's a very heavy hitting subject, and we'll see how we're going to maneuver around it and get around to the issues that need to be discussed. And also here we have our amazing multimillionaire, Mrs. Lucas. Hi.
Good morning. I claim that multi-million part.
Yes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone listening live right now.
All right, and we shall wait for our other panelists to join us. Mutinta should be coming, and we'll be talking about something that happens in the family, but the family decides to protect the image of the family at the expense of the victim. And we'll see how far we can go with that. So, Matilda, how are you? How are things going?
Thanks for asking. I'm fine. It's a good morning. It's a good day. So thank you. I'm fine. Thank you.
The last time we were here, we're talking with Rodney.
Yes.
Where,
We
where,
ambushed the show and took over. I'm
Yeah.
I'm seeking what's that? 1,000 apologies.
for what?
We had the script and then we just decided to bring in people to say happy birthday.
Well, yeah, I know it's okay. That's ZBTR. That's how we roll. I mean,
Right.
if you're chitika, if you're
If you're
chitika,
feeling it.
and it goes fast. But Alan, how are things going on your end as we wait for Miss Matinta?
Yeah, I think things are going good. It's been a very busy year.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be lighter on the business side here, so I could jump over, get to Zambia, and get to work on our projects. But it's being delayed, and also you know how it is back home, just to get basic things, you're like pulling teeth. So I'm learning patience.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we get here, we become Americanized. We don't even realize how much. There are certain things we just expect it's gonna be automatic. Then you go home, and when you complain, people are like, "What's wrong with you?" You know what I'm saying?
At Tekanyeni, right?
Hey, take again. One lady
Okay.
told me that, my brother, this is Africa. so I ended up now, I was just embarrassed then because I was beginning getting worked up for like, hey, this is so basic. Let's get it done. How can you? It took me a whole day, Mubanki, just trying to open an account. A
Wow.
whole full 8 hours.
Oh,
So for
wow.
me, it was like pathetic. So the guy, my brother,
What
this
was
is
the
Africa.
what was the issue?
I don't know. And I had Dumukaya Bank. I just,
Lucky you
it
got
was,
it done the same day.
yeah.
There are certain things that take a whole week. Kunga.
Atayadumukaya Mbangi.
It, and
Mm,
then people were there the whole day, but just came to deposit money. Somebody spends 4 hours in the bank. I'm like, these are hours that were supposed to be productive.
mm,
How are we keeping? I mean, we're taking away from productive hours on your business, in your offices. You come and spend a half a day in the bank, a full day at
mhm,
the bank, just to
mhm,
deposit or
See that
withdraw
there
money.
are security measures that they do where there's a system in place that makes it
Yeah.
faster, and then kunga and it takes them longer. I mean, I'm not trying to give an excuse, but just trying to
Mm,
think, like, I'm wondering why it does take that long.
mhm,
yeah.
mhm. Okay.
It is true. But my philosophy is like, it's like, if it's just break every system in order to improve it. So we gotta keep on working on how do we break it so that we are faster and keep
Mhm.
going. I'm sure even here at one point they would spend the whole week in the bank, but you know
Okay, let's try to Mutinta is dealing with the situation, so she will
yeah.
be doing her. She can okay, there she is.
Okay.
Um and as soon as she's ready here, we'll be we'll be ready to go. Okay. Um let's welcome our amazing family therapist.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you?
I am good. I'm good. Putting out fires this morning.
I know, right? That's at times we find ourselves in those situations.
Oh my goodness. Yes, yes. Thank you.
I love it when I see an African woman wearing, what do you call it, Matich? Where did the word Ichiduku come from?
Duku.
Ah,
Uh-huh.
Ichitambala, ichiduku. I guess it's a different word for it.
different word
Depending on
for
where you're
it.
coming from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
actually thought it was foreign. I think in Taulu in Tonga, right?
Njalo.
Hmm.
Oh, you scored
Oh,
big.
okay.
Clotilda, did you hear that?
In Taulo.
In
Oh, that's huge. I love it when I hear a Tonga word. We thank you everybody for joining us. Please tell a friend we are live and we're speaking about resilience in the face of molestation. We may not be able to take this the direction we wanted to take it, but this is ZBTR. Anything can happen, and we're so glad, as usual. I mean, we've had great feedback from everybody. The 12 times that we've had Miss Mutinta join us here, and she's just done an amazing job helping us walking through some things. So we don't take it lightly, Mutinta, that you are here. And we decided to bring in another lady. Maybe she can help us see things from a different perspective as well. Because at times when Alan and I are here, and then we start talking about women issues, and they're like, when I'm watching TV and I'm hearing these things about women's health issues, these politicians, and then you see old men walking, trying to discuss women's health issues. And I'm like, get a grip, yeah? Put some women on that panel and let them deal with the issue. The subject is a heavy one. Okay.
Before we start, Miss Matilda, I just have to say, I love you. I rave about you. I watched you one time and I was busy texting Pastor Nathan. I'm like, I love her. It felt like 5 minutes. So I'm glad to see you.
Wow, thank you so much. Humble, thanks for the compliment. And you are an amazing woman. And I know we're going to have a great discussion here today. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to your input.
Absolutely.
You are a power
Miss Matilda is ours. We have claimed her. She's ours. She's the one we run to for everything. So.
Oh, man.
Okay, let's drop the first bomb. Mutinta, what is molestation?
I'm frozen.
Well, we can see you and hear you.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what's going on. I'm just frozen. I'm just frozen over here. But okay, so molestation. What is molestation? What a heavy topic.
Yes.
As you already know, it jilted me, and I think we were trying to, how do we table it, and going back and forth more than usual. Probably it's because of the gravity that it carries.
Yes.
And it's something that will plague someone. And when I say plague someone, literally alter their trajectory of their lives. And because it's not addressed mostly properly, and people walk around with broken souls.
Yes.
So how do you bring a topic that you have to handle a broken soul? So it's a topic that I'm passionate about, and every time a patient sits in front of me and has that history, I sit up. I sit up like I am aware. I want to listen, and I want to make sure that they hear me. So forgive me if I'm not focusing, because
no. Just you're good because it's like it's a heavy, so you have to try and navigate it so that you don't say, you know what I'm saying? You have to be careful with your words. I know you're trying to be careful with your words.
Absolutely. So molestation, when we are talking about molestation, is children. It's the umbrella for everything children. Now, what are children, right? Every country, even states, the age differs. Some, I think in America now it's 18 everywhere, right? We used to have states where it was 16.
Oh, okay.
And in Canada, you can drink at 18. In America, you can't drink at 21. So there are those differences. So American definition, anyone under the age of 18 is inappropriate, non-consensual. I don't even know why consensual is in there, because there's no consenting if it's a minor, right? How do you get a consent from a minor? So it's any sexual, inappropriate, non-consensual contact. And sometimes it doesn't have to be contact. That's the misunderstanding. A child can be molested even just by seeing an adult. And that voyeurism is very common, where someone exposes themselves to the kid. And most of the times we think molestation is the adult touching, grazing, whatever it may be. But sometimes the child is directed to do those things. They are made to do those things to an adult. So that is molestation. So there are other things that fall under molestation, right? There's rape, there's showing a
Sorry,
child.
Mutinta, does that include online contact with a minor and directing them that way?
So it's a fine line, right? Because most of the times molestation, it takes time. There's grooming, grooming the child and making them feel seen and special, and compliments and pictures. You look beautiful. If they get in trouble, I don't think that was really your fault. They feel like they have an ally, someone on their side, right? So that's the grooming. And sometimes the grooming includes bringing in the parent. The parent, they're like, wow, he's a great man. Gave you a ride when I couldn't make it. And, very, very nice woman makes. Now, boys get molested too. Boys get molested. Oh, she cooks for my kids, when all of that. So the grooming can take the community as well. Be it a teacher. Child molesters who go specifically to be, now, teachers, please don't come at me. Not all of them, you do a good job. Not all of them do that. But that's a platform for a molester. Can you imagine how much access that person has to children? They'll go to teach, and they're in that environment, preying on the children who are vulnerable. So they can groom the community as well. So be it in a church, have power and influence, what people listen to you, let alone a child. So that is a molestation. Child abuse falls under that. So abuse, there has to be repetition over and over. That's abuse.
Now, Mutinta, you have used a word here called grooming. And that is very key in this whole process when the actual activity of molestation takes place. So it's very difficult to say this, the compliments, the being nice, the gifts, the whatever things this adult person is doing to this child. What would be the safety measures to people watching, to children? I know what would be the safety nets?
Wow,
to deal with these grooming things.
To that effect, on the news this past week, there's a child, I forget where, who was abducted, is missing because the family, the mother, this man would go and pick up the child, drop her home, and it was like, okay, he's helping out, like you were saying, and now he's just taken off, and then come to find out he's the unregistered child molester, and he's been helping them for a few years, and now he just took off with the child.
Absolutely, and
he
probably
knew him, everything.
He groomed everyone, the school, the parents, the child, and he earns the trust. So that question is really loaded, right?
Yeah.
The cost for sexual abuse is in America is $9.3 billion.
Wow. When you say the cost, what are you saying?
We're talking about prosecution. Prosecuting the child offenders and making sure that they're registered, and the monitoring and things like that, and then the treatment of the abuse, the victims, in hospital bills and things like that? How about the time productivity of the victim? Because they're not going, it's a long process before you can get to where you are yourself and, actually your trajectory is shifted most of the times because it's a lifelong battle.
Lifelong.
Yes, absolutely. So economically, that changes the trajectory of your life. And what was interesting in there is like, okay, so how much is allocated to prevention?
Could I just come in on there? I like how you have defined and broken down the molestation of it, what molestation is, and the grooming aspect. My thoughts go to Zambia, Africa, most of the times. Grooming may happen, but I think the grooming aspect is more here because the person is there's that psychology that takes place at home and home in Zambia and the rest of Africa. I think I'm speaking in generalities here. I think threats usually go with the molestation rather than the grooming. It's the threat of a person who's taking advantage in an abusive way, usually in a sexual way, and threatening that child. Say, if you say something, it's your fault. If you say something, your mother or your father will do this. If you say something, I will do this to your parent or to you or whatever. There's usually a threat to keep that child silent. I don't know. I mean, this is your field of expertise, Mutinda, and you can go into depth. I'm just going based on the people I know, the stories I have heard. A lot of times you hear more the threatening than the grooming. The grooming might come in towards maybe a teenager where you're like, okay, this person is obviously underage, but how can I soften them? How can I yield, have them yield to my desires? So I will groom them. But the ones under, usually it's a threat. And I've also seen the threats happening here in these United States. And there's a very sad story. If there's time, I will share it.
Absolutely. You are absolutely right. So it's a process. I think what victims they will not talk about the grooming. They will not, but they will talk about the threat because it's threatening, right? Grooming feels good.
And it feels like I'm responsible because I was going along.
Exactly. Do you see how continues to victimize the victim? Really, there are shame. First of all, there's significant internal and external shame to that. So the molesters are smart, and the grooming is not very like outward. Sometimes it can be very subtle. It can be extremely subtle. It's a process, so they'll test the waters first, when they start to molest, because they don't want to be told. Molesters thrive in secrecy.
Right.
They thrive in secrecy. So what can be threatening to them is a child telling. So they will test the waters. It may be subtle how they introduce themselves. They will just not be abrupt and start threatening and all of that. They will try to be nice first. If they can manipulate the victim before they get to threatening, they'll do it.
You're absolutely right.
Threatening then is part of it. The threatening actually is the closest part before the actual molestation begins.
So it can begin with small things like, hey, I know your mom says don't have ice cream, but don't tell her.
Yeah.
So that can be like a test. And the child doesn't tell, then you build it up from there.
Yes, there's gaining of that trust. There's also grooming can be preparing the kid for what's about to start to happen by having adult conversation with a child.
When you define what is adult conversation?
Let's say pornography is one of them. showing an X-rated movie to a child.
Mm-hmm.
You know, coming to just an adult, we know you're having an inappropriate conversation with a 16-year-old and you are going into sexual things and making light of them. You know, and teenagers, especially teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
they are very, hormones are kicking in. They're starting to feel things and they'll take advantage of that. You know, let's say younger kids, let's say 5, the part of the grooming sometimes is just a tap on contact, just on the thigh. It's okay. So they don't think anything of it, and it's not anywhere where they're told, you know, don't let anybody touch you there. That's how it starts. It's high five sometimes. It's as subtle as that. High five. You know, before you know it, hugs. Come give uncle a hug, and 2, and it will be tapping on the back. They're crossing systematically, crossing those boundaries. And the child doesn't get it because you are told, protect your private areas. But if uncle is slapping like on the side, on the arm, rubbing the thigh, they are crossing those lines. So you're very right. Most of the times, I think here they are much more skilled in the grooming process. Back home, maybe because, you know, these things are like, shh, 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 shh. You know, there's a lot of threatening. And, you know, I think Pastor Alan, the other day we were talking, where you go report to someone, they say, fila chitika. It happens. You know, we normalize behavior like that. I think over
It
here we are a
also
little bit.
happens to me. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So threats are real. They happen here. They happen everywhere. It's literally part of the process. Now, it's not linear. These behaviors are not linear. Like, when it's presented, that's what it looks like. They may skip all the grooming and just get to the threatening. Those are, you know, real cases, and it can happen. It depends on the environment and the factors and variables that are there. So I agree with you. Lots of threatening.
Not to drag you too far back, I'm a little bit stuck on molestation is only in minors. So an adult cannot be molested?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
Mm-mm.
Can you elaborate on that?
I mean, molestation is non-consensual. It's a child. That's just the umbrella it falls on. It's under a child under the age of 18.
But haven't we heard reports of an adult, especially with the Me Too, come out and people say I was molested and they were 25?
It's
trying
a
to get
misuse.
a movie part.
I mean, we can use it, I think, synonymously, but is that correct term? Can we go to court and call it that? We couldn't. It can be sexual assault. It can be sexual abuse. It can be a sexual battery. There are different classes of that. So some of it is the gravity of it. Let's say sexual battery. Sexual battery, there is force, there's injury, and 3rd degree, there's a weapon used to it. So there are levels to that. The one that is really, the 2 words that are very synonymous are sexual assault and sexual battery. And one, I think battery includes when we hear a disabled person being raped. That falls under a sexual battery.
Sexual battery.
It's the degree of the offense.
So when we say sexual assault, sexual abuse, sexual battery, you are talking in the levels, right?
Yes.
And who and how and who is affected in the process?
Yes, molestation refers to mostly children.
Children. Okay.
And the degrees can be in there, whether it's sexual battery, whether it's sexual assault and sexual abuse, it falls under. That's why molestation is really like the umbrella.
The umbrella.
It specifies mostly children.
Now, I know in families, especially, like they like using this expression in as people of color. Okay, I know this thing has got no cultural barriers or whatever. Should we revisit who we entrust our children with? It doesn't matter whether, I'm gonna say this, it doesn't even matter whether it's my own brother. Should we revisit whom we entrust our children with?
Can I?
What's your take on that?
Okay. It's one of those things that you're like, especially in today's day, this time, this day and age, it's like there's no one you can really trust. It has come to that point. You will find siblings can do that to your child or to their sister or their brother. You find a parent, and these days even women are doing these things. The worker, Avanjito, the gardener, the house help, the maid. Sometimes you think you've hired a maid, a female maid, can't it's a man, you know? It's so alarming that it can freak a person out to a point where like I won't trust anyone other than myself. But trust, at some point you have to trust someone. So I think it comes down to having conversations. Kunganda, we are very cloak and dagger about certain things. We don't talk about sex. We don't talk about inappropriate touching openly. So it's difficult even for a child to come to a parent and say, "Bayama vachitef, nangu vachitef," or maybe, "Oh, vachi insta so pakuboko," and then you're like, "What's wrong with that?" You know what I mean? And then there's always that rush to say, "Paliacho watch, that is something that you did."
Right there, Matilda. Right there, Matilda. Womutinta. I think maybe I don't want us just to be glossing over these things you are saying. I want us to zero in into them. Okay. The child is touched in an innocent way, like Matilda is saying, pat on the whatever. If the child says that to you as a parent, what should be your response or reaction? How should you respond to things like that?
Didn't tell me. Go ahead, Tinta. I know her screen is freezing.
Yeah, she's freezing. You are good now. You are good now.
Yeah.
Attempt to say something.
Tinta, you are good.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just go ahead.
Yeah,
I think you see, even if you freeze, you speak, we can still hear you.
We can still hear you.
Okay.
Not
No,
like
we can't.
like the Pentecostals will say the devil is a liar. So,
Okay,
Matilda,
while we're
what
waiting
should
for Tinta to respond, I will say this. I think parents, when parents get, or an adult gets that report to say such and such contact was made physically, there's a tendency to two things. Either you gloss over it, like you ignore it, like you went over, like no big deal, or you take it from 0 to 100 without getting the facts right. I think we need to slow down the conversation and say, okay, let me understand. Because sometimes if we come out very angry too, we can either cause the child to get scared and not say anything, they clamp up, or they'll tell a lie because mom or dad has reacted this way, and rather than tell the truth, we make up something, embellish, and that embellishment can take the whole thing away or can heighten the situation. So a parent should, and it's not easy, but a parent should try and like, okay, now what happened again? How did this thing happen? What did uncle do? What were you doing? What did, ask those questions gently, try to get the story out so that you understand the situation better. But I see Mtinta is moving, so I think you're free to talk, right?
Absolutely, and I caught some of that. You are right. Actually, not to get angry, because then the child can mistake that for they did something wrong. Children most of the times will default to "it's my fault," self-blame, guilt. So it made you to it's your child. That's a dagger. That's a dagger. You want to react to, someone has to, but you want to be calm with them. You want to show stability. You don't want to embellish. You repeat what they said. You said A, B, C, D. Let them come up, encourage them to talk without nothing less, nothing more. Just make it safe for them to continue to tell you. Because most of the times it may still be at the grooming level. They haven't been threatened yet. So that gives you a chance to find out where this stage is, especially if it's an ongoing thing in the case of child abuse. So be calm, hear them out. Can't tell you enough. Please tell them they did the right thing. I am proud of you for talking about this. You did
So
the right thing.
just to qualify what you're saying, Tinta, so I think in encouraging them, even if the hug from the uncle was innocent, when the child speaks to you, still encouraging that they did the right thing.
They did
Because
the
if
right
you
thing.
go back to them and say, hey, it was nothing, you overshot it, the man may be innocent, quite all right, but the next time something may actually be wrong, that child may fall back on the, hey, I was rebuked.
Absolutely.
So even if it's a real thing, they won't realize.
Absolutely. Here's the thing, though. It may be hard. If it made the child uncomfortable, it's valid. Did it make them comfortable? Just because Jelita over there likes the hugs and that's okay with it, touchy-feely, that's all right. If your child says it's uncomfortable, it didn't sit well with them, it is uncomfortable, it didn't sit well with them. And that's an opportunity to talk to them. You don't want them isolated. Molesters will isolate. They will isolate. So let's find people in the family, for mothers, even fathers. This is a conversation actually that we need the men, on this table. If we are ever going to make any progress, because this is a pandemic, 1 out of 4 girls are going to be abused in the world. 1 out of 4 girls are going to be sexually molested, abused.
Wow.
In the world, 1 out of
4. That's very high.
Very high.
1
That's
out of
very high.
20 boys are going to be molested. 1 out of 20 boys are going to. So let's do the math here. Who's doing most of these abuses? The men. Women, please, let's not play victim. We raise these men. We make these men. So it's just not the men. We need the men on the table, but the women too, we raise our men.
We raise our sons.
I like that. We raise our men. Brenda says, as parents, we need to pay attention to our children. Listen to your child when they say they're uncomfortable around certain adults. Yeah. And here, I like, is this the one I want to put? Yeah. I like Lamek's comment. I'll tell you why I like it. Also, pay attention when your child tells you they don't want to go to uncle auntie place or they don't want to go for sleepover. Watch out for those hugs, kisses. No need for uncle to kiss your child on the lips.
Absolutely.
You see, when our kids were younger and they said they were going to go over to a sleepover at their friend's place, I always asked questions. who is in that house, who is going to be in the house, how many people in that house. I always ask that question. I always ask those questions.
There's an example I want to give. It happened to somebody very dear to me, but everybody missed it. I mean, I have several examples where we all missed it, but this particular one, African family here in the United States, there's a couple, husband and wife couple. They are very close to this family that we know, very, very close. And the husband is very helpful, above and beyond. The kind of a person, if you call in the middle of the night, there's a problem, whatever it is, he will help. He'll get up, drive to you, help you, if it's money, whatever. The wife can be counted on up to certain things. Other things, you just draw a line, like, no. But the husband is superstar, you know, to a point where he'll come home and everybody calls him uncle and so on. This particular time, the mother was not around. The kids were into their own activities and so on. So she left the country. I would go to that house from time to time just to check on the kids. I wasn't staying there. Check on the kids, go. That particular uncle was very present. Take the kids, do this, do that. His wife would come on, but just like me, she'd just come. But then the child started acting up, like really acting up. The behavior just went from, here's a little girl, to very defiant, very mouthy. She talk back to her mother, just became very aggressive, that rebelliousness. And the mother was not understanding, but it was a child's way of communicating that something is wrong. And it would always be, oh, Uncle John will do this. Uncle John, you know, like, go with Uncle John, or Uncle John will take care of this, you know, so on. Sometimes the kids would spend the night at their place. And every time the child would go there, at their place, she would wet the bed, you know. But at home, she wouldn't wet the bed. And the wife would be very upset all the time. This woman, she displayed things that stepmother tendencies. She was very hard on those kids. They were not her kids. The kids called both of us auntie, but the kids would gravitate to me more than her. She would beat these kids, beat that little girl especially, like really beat her up. So, but Uncle John was very nice. He's a softer person, very kind. Come to find out, this is now when even statute of what, the term has lapsed. And that's when she comes on to say, every time you went out of the country and Uncle John was taking care of us, this is what he was doing, you know. With us, we were concentrating more on his wife because of the abusiveness, where when she comes home, she would beat the kids for no reason. She would come to visit their house and she'd just, hey, what are you doing? And just take a whip and beat them. So like, this woman, there's something wrong with her. The husband was tender, nice, and all that stuff. And yet he was the abuser. So I don't know what used to happen over there. And she comes to tell us now when she's over 18, over 21, this is when she's saying, this is what was happening. And now they're like, can you help us? Like, where do you start? How do you even start? You know what I mean? So, yeah, just when Lamek's comment came on, it triggered that thought.
Absolutely.
But so that's a question that can be asked. Let's say, because with the Me Too, we saw cases going back 20 years. In this case, like legally, what happens? Because we can't just say it's fair, Peter. You go on with your life. This child's life is ruined forever.
So that's legal, the legal issues that I'm saying. I think there's a certain time, different
Statute of limitation.
Yes. So different states will have different years. I think mostly 7, depending on the state. They are civil, you know, you can sue civilly, you know, and most of those people, I think, I don't know, financially, even what amount can you put on that kind of damage that you inflict on someone, you know? unfortunately, it becomes tricky like that, and it's easy to victimize the person, and it's difficult. I'm so sorry for your niece, all that time, and talking about it now will be re-traumatizing.
It is.
Because she has to process that and go through it and remember. And how we, as human beings, how we manage trauma sometimes is taking it in bits. The brain naturally wants us to push it in the back because it's too triggering. So this is when.
Well, sorry, Ramtin, before we go deep into the trauma, there are two things we talked about. Leaving your children, being careful who you leave them and your child with and everything. So in looking at effects and the telltale signs that the child has been abused, there are situations where I'm a single mother or a single father, and I've got these 3 children, and in order, my job, one job only pays me $2,000. To make ends meet, I need 2-3 jobs.
Yeah.
So I leave the house at 6. The kids take themselves to school. They come back at 3. I come back at 7 just to change, or 5, just to take a shower and go to the next job and say hi to the kids. There's food here. I'm coming back at midnight. They are supposed to be in bed already. So I am not in the child's life. So I'm not present. And these are real issues that I have to go do those jobs.
Absolutely.
So the telltale signs and the talking to the kids become your only, like you're walking around with your fingers crossed under prayer. So how do we,
real issues, and that goes also to the parent. That's the trauma that the parent has to, go through too. Self-blame. That happens on your watch, and you have a genuine reason why you were gone. You had to provide for them, and you missed those cues. You missed the opportunities for conversation, for observation, like what changed. Let's talk about the signs, first of all, just to go back. Regression is one of them, where a child at 12-year-old starts to pee on the bed. That's a regression also. Bedwetting is a significant sign of child abuse, sexual abuse. Very significant. There's change in behavior, sudden, they'll change behavior, and they'll look like they're seeking for attention. They're calling attention to what's going on, and they'll act out, in anger. And let's say if you are working so much, you're not there to see these things, for them to be able to report you. They're going to be irritated at you because something is happening to them when you are gone. And I told you you have no manners. And they're looking at you like, and you're not here.
Then you don't even care. You're not protecting me.
Exactly. And you're talking about these rules, and righteousness, and meanwhile someone is doing unrighteous things to me. Those are some of them. Substance abuse, they will start using to cope. They will drink, they'll use marijuana, they'll vape, whatever it takes to numb what is going on. I'm so sorry. Excessive, some of them, they can be sexually inappropriate. If they are children, let's say 6, 5, or whatever, they can't, articulate these things, you can see that behavior, like they'll act out. Even when they play with their dolls, they are constantly, touching, private area here, private area, or kind of imitating those activities of what. So you are missing those opportunities to observe, because that's a telltale sign. That's when you're supposed to be like, where did you see that from? Don't rattle them.
Yeah.
So it's not, don't do that.
No.
It's, why are you doing that?
Tell me more. What are they? Try to assess what they know. Don't threaten. If you don't do that, oh my God, like, no, you're shutting them up. They won't tell you. Observe. Yeah. If they are on the floor, be at their level. So tell me, what are they doing?
So you need to begin to develop skills. And you see that I think one of the major challenges in this matter in my view, is it's got to do with our own relationships with our children.
Yes.
Yes.
And like Alan said, those of us who have to work many long hours and more than one job and all those things. Mutinta, I would like you to go further and elaborate more on
Okay.
what are some of the signs of sexual molestation.
Absolutely. So
Hmm.
signs, you will see persistent sexual play, you know, they'll act it up. They can be dramatic. It's persistent. Most of the times we expect maybe like outward signs. Sometimes they can be subtle, but there are many. They start to accumulate. We're like, what? They're talking about it, they're acting it. Appetite changes, how they eat. Either they overeat.
This is the victim we are talking about.
Yes, yes. They overeat or they don't eat at all. You see, in a period of time, you saw the subtle changes and they're gaining weight. They are eating, they're feeling. Remember how we talked about serotonin being in the stomach, the calming, sleep good, feel happy neurotransmitter is in the stomach. When we eat, overeat is stimulated, so there can be weight gain there. They can also shut down and stop eating and lose weight, being self-aware, self-image, because it's being outed, is being played with. So you will see self-consciousness. They will just change how they present themselves. You say, oh, they used to be just a carefree. That is no longer there. So you want to look at those. Sleeping changes. They start feeling tired during the day. Now, you have to be observant because as a teenager, they want to sleep more, right? So you have to be present to notice that. Of course, we talked about bedwetting, stomach aches. Children express stress, anxiety with stomach pain. Mumala mubaba. They're missing school because mumala mubaba. It's somatic. That's what we call somatic pain. They feel that, and usually centered in that they didn't go to school. Observe. It's been 3 times this month, and it's been stomach, but there is no, pathology there. What's going on. Start looking in other areas. Those are physical. Anxiety, getting agitated. Makamba azazuka. They're coming at you. They're little things more than usual will just tip them off, or they give you the look, agitation, poor sleep. They can't concentrate. The grades start going down. And most of the times we expect these massive drops. No, sometimes they can be subtle changes where what's going on? Consistently, your grades went from A's and now you are or B's and some C's. Like, what's happening? Teachers changed, be involved. Aggression, tantrums, irritability, those are some of them. But there won't be a sign like this big billboard that is happening. You have to be connected. You have to talk every day. You have to have a conversation. Fathers, can we talk about sex? Can we please talk about sex with your children?
Lishupa Yoba Mtinda. And listening to your list, I'm feeling like you remember during COVID, when you are feeling certain signs, you don't know if it's a cold, a flu, or COVID, the symptoms are pretty much the same. And I give that example because some of these things, children are going through hormonal change. They're transiting from baby to child to preteen, and then to teenagers. So some of these things, you see them. And sometimes we can miss them and say they're being dramatic, or we blame the friends, we blame what they're watching on TV. Everything else will be blamed except what's going on. I think the key is slowing down. But like Alan has said, how do you slow down to have that real conversation when the bills are due? You live in a state where $2,000 a month does not get you anywhere. You know what I mean? So like, how do you slow down? Yeah. I stand to learn that adulting is a scam. You're grown up now. You have these responsibilities to do all these things that society is expecting of you. But the problem.
So
Munganda, there's a child or children being abused, and you
let
don't
me
know who,
let
how,
me let me
where.
cut you there, Matilda. You
Now
see,
we have to shut
this is where we have to make the hard decisions. Okay.
Mhm.
And I know some people be saying hard to say, hard for you to say, and stuff like that. You see, the reason and the passion behind us bringing this subject to this forum and to discuss is because there is this thing of us saying, like Matilda is saying, Bomutinta, Alan, there's this thing to say, you know, we are so much out there trying to take care of the family, pay those so-called bills, and all these things. You see, what really hurts me is trying to protect the so-called image of the family at the expense of the molested child. Now, are you going to really give all your life to your job at the expense of your children? And when they grow up, then you try to do catch up.
To catch up.
Now they've grown, they've gone, you know, and they'll be like, look, you never paid that. Okay, I'm gonna move on, move on. You know what I'm trying to say?
So in effect,
You
Pastor
do
Nathan,
not want your child to reach that point.
yeah,
It's like I always tell guys when we, like you are saying, Mutinta, men, let's talk about these things. I always tell guys, work out your relationship with your spouse. When a woman reaches a point of enough, you are done. My friend, you are done. When she says this is where it ends, you can go and buy a house next to Bill Gates. She's done. Let's not get our kids get to that point of where they get done and they're like, you know what? Dad doesn't care. He just cares about his career and all that stuff. So communication skills, I've put it up there. So what communication skills should we develop, Matilda? What communication skills should we develop? Let's not say
Listen,
Fiari, Charlie Shupa. That era is gone. It's
To
our
add
parents who are not going to talk to us about sex. We will talk about it.
yeah,
right, and
listening is part of communication. We need to
yeah.
listen more.
listen more.
But
Yes.
the beauty, Pastor Nathan, is that you do have a daughter, right? And
True.
so I was going to put two daughters, yeah. So I was going to pose that question to you. I was like, so Pastor Nathan, how do we talk about sex to our daughters? Not my wife talking to them, me.
Yes. First of all, before, sorry, Pastor Nathan, being I'm busy, you are putting a value on your daughter. You are saying they don't matter.
Mm.
I have other things that are more important than you. And for us living in the diaspora, we are sending money to our families. We are picking hours. When I was a nurse, there was limited, time to it. You are racking them hours and making all the money and buying the house, and you are sending money to the relative. You are showing your daughter that those relatives matter more
More than
than she does.
wow.
That's the message that we are sending to our kids.
Mm.
Sometimes it doesn't take an hour, 30 minutes to see them. Hi, how are you? What's going on in your world? That's it. Let's talk. You okay? How are you feeling? Right there, ask the right questions. And sometimes they will try to tell you. They'll see if you're connecting. And if you're not connecting and you're busy, they won't start it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's value them. Let's make time. Are we saying we are that busy that we're not going to value our own children? It doesn't take the whole day sometimes to notice those things. See them every day to see those subtle signs. Go ahead, Pastor Nathan. Sorry.
No, about
I have an example to illustrate here when it comes to communication.
yes.
Let's say the child has communicated and the parents have heard. And I think by Nathan, we're getting to that part. Short example. And this example, we've had the guest on the show before, where a child said, somebody, this man, it was a relative, an uncle,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody knows But guess what? This is now Zambia. This man is the sole provider. He's not sole provider, but he is the provider. Ngakuli Chirilo, he's the one. Ngakuli Winga, Ngakuli school fees, he's the one. He's the one who takes care of external and internal family needs. But the meeting that this family had was, if we do this, we'll discredit this man, and this man will stop helping us. Mama. So now they were telling the child to keep quiet. Let's not even take him to the police. And if anything, this child should be made to apologize.
Yeah, I know, right?
The guest I'm talking about, and you know her, she's very vocal. She put it on Facebook and said, "The care issue." She addressed it. She put it on Facebook and said, "This is what's going on." And of course, she got hate mail for that because she brought it out to the attention, and people started speaking about that and reacting to that post because she put it out there and said, "This is what's going on." You know.
You see, to Alan's question about how we talk to our kids about that, Mutinta said it. I have conversations with my girls every day. I talk to them every day. And I'll tell you what, when you create, you see, we make things complicated. It's, you see, when you develop the foundational principles or rules, the bigger things become easy. If you are able to communicate about everyday simple things, they'll be open to tell you things that you think they cannot tell you.
Absolutely.
Develop the foundational principle is what matters. Build it. And by the way, it's never too late. As long as that person is still within your reach, try to work on it. And you see, here's the thing. Problem twakwat is we think certain people or certain of us in society, in homes, in families shouldn't say sorry or forgive me. Okay? No, you can't go there. A parent saying, look, just like you said, Mutin, if the child is sitting on the floor, go sit with them there.
Down with them.
At their level.
And say, look, I haven't done very well in the past, but I'm willing that we begin somewhere. Trust me. Trust me. I'm telling you, I'm speaking from experience. One time, let me give you an example. One time, you know, as pastors, we do so much stuff. One day, my daughter walked up to me and she says, "Oh, wow, Dad, you're so much on the phone." But do you know the natural way, the normal way, if I may put it that way, African parent to respond? Do you know what I do perform? I'm trying to earn a living to feed you, and you are telling me that I'm too much on the phone.
Yeah.
She's just telling you the truth and expressing herself. You know, look at it as somebody trying to reach out to develop your relationship. Okay, she's crying out for your attention.
Exactly.
We like reacting. Even when the child is right and you know that the child is right, there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, I've heard you. I will do better.
Yes.
It doesn't diminish you being a parent.
That's right. That's right.
And you know what? You teach them more than you can ever teach them in a lifetime when you respond that way.
Yes.
So
And
we don't
today,
realize those things.
And we know we have phones today. I call my daughter 3-4 times a day. I'm like, "Dad, why?" I was like, "No, because you missed me." "Yeah, you're the one that missed me." I was like, "Yeah, you missed me. That's why I'm calling you." You know, but you know, it's very, very in where we're coming from. You had the auntie, Wanasenge, certain people within your family or the neighbors who they'll say, "Hey, now you thought they came to see your mom, they actually came to talk to you, to the children, and they are trusted that way and they can communicate." When we come and live in the diaspora, we don't have that luxury necessarily. And then also some of the way like the Americans will do stuff and talk to their kids, we can do. Like for instance, my uh, my friend's in-laws would walk. My in-law Penny, she's in a bikini. She goes, jumps in the pool, comes and sits on the couch, and we're eating and walk around like that. That's them. That's how they do stuff. So to catch up, so to knowing, going through the weeds of, okay, what's appropriate, what isn't, drawing the line, and the only way you can really do it is be present with your children, because there are certain things that they will be seeing from their friends that they know, but like the hugging issue, right? Especially in the Christian Pentecostal circles, everyone is a hugger. You know, we don't stop to say, is that a molester? Is that the appropriate? Everyone, you know, so the presence of the parent is no substitute. So to
there are
Anetha's thing,
there are certain people I don't hug.
yeah, you know, to what Anetha was saying, you're going to have to make decisions. Do I chase this money or do I be present there? The well-being of your children, you're better off saying, okay, guys, I'm dropping the second job, so we're gonna have to go twice a month to the food bank so we can get some supplies, but I'm gonna be around and be present. You know, those are like real life issues that we're gonna have to the decisions that we're saying we should make, because some of them are the real situations. So you're gonna have to throw your pride away and say, instead of having 3 jobs, I'm dropping this one so that Saturday and Sunday, at least, I'm gonna be with my kids. Or I'm gonna come home at an hour where they're not in bed, so I can have a life with them. It's one of the reasons I quit working American Express. I was like, I can't work until 8 p.m. every day. My daughter is growing up without me.
Yeah. Let's answer some of these questions from people watching. Are molesters sick?
They can be. Are they all sick? No.
When they are, how does that sickness look like? What is it?
Mental illness. They can be different disorders. They say borderline personality disorder. They can do that. There's impulsivity in there. In borderline personality, remember, one of the characteristics is the lack of regulation of emotions. So they feel something, they act on it. So they're impulsive. Most of the borderline personality disorder patients, they're victims themselves.
Tinta, can molestation, for part of it or some of it, can it fall under sexual fetish?
It can.
What is that?
In this case, like men who prefer young people, young children, it can be an adult, a boy or a girl, but that's what works for them. They can see a grown up and they are not sexually aroused, but when they see a child, that's what.
Right.
That's what works for them.
Turned on by children.
Yes.
Yes.
How? That's not right.
No, it's yes, yes, absolutely. Going back to
Epstein, that's, you know, the cases of Epstein and all that. That's part of that.
Right,
you know.
right. It's the preference. They prefer young.
They prefer, yes.
Yes, they prefer young ones. You know, almost like there's an excitement that they are not experienced to these things, and they're the ones introduce the innocence. The innocence is what, you know, is exciting to them, and I want to say it's sick, you know, because no normal person thinks that way. Is there a diagnosis in the DSM-5? No, there isn't. That's why I'm not calling it a disorder, but generally speaking, that is sickness. Talking about, if we can go back a little bit, talking about it. It's like sweeping things under the rug, but it's the best we can do. Because we don't have those kinds of relationships with our daughters, let's have people within our circle that we trust, which is tricky too. Like, whom can you trust, right? So recommendation is have about 5 that you can tell your child. If it's difficult for you to come to me, let's talk to Auntie Matilda, go talk to Auntie Alice, and Uncle Richard, and 5 people. and make sure that you tell them until whatever is happening stops. Like I said, molesters, they like to do things in private. Some of them have been molested themselves, so they have internal shame. So being found out is the worst thing that can happen to them.
Okay,
So,
we have a question here as well. I want us to. Does molestation have long-lasting effects on the psyche of the victim, and if so, what are those?
absolutely, absolutely devastating. The
Mm.
hardest to get over. Like I said, especially because it's still a child. And sometimes when that happens at 5 years old, they don't even know the names of their anatomy. At least in my era, when we grew up, you don't know the name of that. So as you are growing, get to 12, you're starting to realize what was just happening. That was wrong. And starting to, PTSD is one of them. And one of the characteristics of PTSD is the need to want to push painful memories in the back. Like literally, it's a phenomenon where they forget. It's the way of the body trying to protect itself. And at some point, most of the times as an adult, these are things that happened, at 5. They're starting to come out. There is repression, repression, like literally in the back of my mind, you're not going to remember, you don't want to, and you don't remember. Some people never remember. But those memories will come flooding. You start having intrusive thoughts. Those are characteristics of PTSD. Unwanted intrusive thought, flashbacks, literally feeling like you are there. Sometimes getting married, being intimate with your partner. Any activities or situations that remind you of that trauma can just trigger that thought from nowhere. You will remember. You will remember the sensation. You will remember the shame. You will remember the pain. It's almost as if you are there. It changes your brain, literally, physically.
And two
Actually,
things.
sorry, real quick. One of the times that it really manifests big time is when someone, especially if they were sexually battered, any kind of sexual violence, and molestation itself. When someone gets married, you find that now relating or relations with their husband or their wife becomes an awkward thing. So now the spouse is thinking, "What don't you like about me?" And then there's something's wrong with me, and then the victim is the victim can't express themselves and say, hey, when you touch me this way or you come to me this way, it takes me back to the rape I experienced or this that I experienced. They can't say that because when they were a child and they reported to an authority, the authority said, shut up, it's your fault.
Yes.
So now they associate reporting with it was my fault. So if I now tell this man who I love or this woman who I love, I will be, they may reject me.
Yes.
And it's a real,
Yeah. Matilda.
The other point was, I was going to say two things, but Alan has said it. The other one could be also promiscuity.
Promiscuity, for sure. And that's also a characteristic of borderline personality disorder. They become promiscuous or engage in with multiple sexual partners. And the problem is they fail to regulate the intense emotion. So they will act it out, whether with multiple sexual partners, or just over wanting it. That can be a problem. I see it all the time where the person who was abused excessively wants to be intimate and the partner cannot keep up with it. And sometimes when it's prolonged, the sexual abuse, it went on for 8 years or whatever. That's how, especially in an abusive environment, that's how they got to calm the person who was abusing them. So they adopt that in a relationship using sex. Every little squabble, it's settled by, makeup sex. It's just overly sexually active where even the spouse is wondering, like, well, when you're not doing this, like, who else are you doing it with someone else? And sometimes they do. and sometimes they do. OCD, that's another one, obsessive compulsive disorder. They can be personality as well, obsessive compulsive personality disorder. Those, they are seeking control, because when you are a child and someone is violating over and over that way, as an adult, you start to seek to control every part of your life, the people around you, things in a certain place. Anything out of order throws you off. You know, if you don't go and wipe that, you are screaming to your partner, put the plate in there. If they don't put it, you want order. You have to have perfect control of your life. And that can be a problem in relationships. And then the
And
people
one thing,
Mhm.
sorry, just real quick, one thing about OCD that people don't know, because OCD is very wide as well, is suicidal thoughts. Suicidal
Absolutely.
thoughts are part of OCD. So
Mhm.
you can find a person is suicidal,
Mhm.
and a lot of times people don't attach it to OCD, and that can be one of those things. You want to harm yourself, you want
Yes.
to hurt yourself, and you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know.
Now, now,
The mol-
Okay.
Pastor,
Yeah,
Pastor,
let's wind up this final question here, Womutin, as we there's no conclusion to this. Okay. Pastor Clarissa says, let us not lose our children as we pursue the American dream. Great topic. Yeah, thank you. So how do we help ourselves in dealing with this molestation issue? How
Okay.
do we help ourselves?
Okay. My message, I think what was discouraging was almost 10 billion is being spent on prosecuting and treating and all of that. And out of $1 of prevention, 4,200 is spent.
Wow.
$1 to prevent, 4,200 per victim.
Wow.
Why are we not preventing this?
Mm-hmm.
Talking, I wanted, men to be on the table. It starts with us. It starts with the men. Come to the table. Start talking to your children. Start when they are younger, when they're starting to learn their anatomy. Teach them about bad touch, good touch. In our society, like Matilda says, threats. Molesters threaten because they are scared. Molesters threaten because they don't want to get caught. So fathers, don't let your children be scared of you. It's not you that should be scared of. It's the people out there who are targeting them. So you let your daughters, your sons know, I got your back. And whoever dares it, don't ever let them threaten you that they're telling you because they don't want to be found out.
Yes.
If we are having natural conversations with our children, natural conversations about their body parts is when they're taking a bath. At 3 years old, these are your breasts. Let's not call private peepees, wee-wees, nyanyas, whatever. Don't do it.
Even pet names. Just mention what it is.
It normalizes it. You're going to have those things on the anatomy. They have functions, survival functions for breastfeeding a baby, for urinating. When you grow up, you're gonna have babies. That's where the babies come from. Talk about
That's good.
in natural settings. What is a bad touch? How long should someone be touching you? Private area, whatever you are covering for a girl going to the swimming pool, nobody else should be touching. Me, your mom, and the doctor. And if it's with the doctor, we are in the room.
Together.
Anything longer than a certain period of, when you are explaining it, it's happening, you are teaching them what's normal. When they are bathing, they're using the bathroom, how long it takes, you are teaching them what's normal. Nobody else should be touching you this. We're doing this because you are bathing, and we're going to the pool, change, get out. If someone walks in the bathroom for you and they're wandering and staying, lingering, that is not normal, because we all need privacy. Let's tell our children that they shouldn't be touching anything. Because we tell them, don't let somebody touch you. No, don't let somebody make you touch something you don't want to touch. Be it kisses, you know. Don't always report something. Tell me. Always listen. I have your back. If we make Gilatonda, don't say that Gilatonda, and it's so discreet, they're not going to feel free to talk to us about it. But if we are saying that's your vagina, that's your penis, and the anus is for excretions, you normalize those conversations. Please, sorry for my children because they've heard this since they were 3.
Vincent, I want to add on to this, and I'm glad you've really talked about how to talk to our children. But the thing, not but, and not but to let cancel out what you've said. What we need to do as well as Ifofeba Kalamba, there are adults in this day and age, some are our age, some are younger, some are older, who have not dealt with childhood trauma, and the abuse continues. So we as adults, our role also is to deal with trauma. It can be adult trauma, it can be childhood trauma, because we can have trauma that has not been processed or dealt with or something, and then we, Forever Kalamba, are the ones who are abusing these kids. The mom, the parents for those children have done their part, but the abuser is still out there. Sometimes the abuser is in the home. So there's trauma that adults also have to deal with. Ngafira tu ingalanda kuchurch Pastor Alan or Pastor Nathan will say deliverance. You know, you need to be delivered of something, because most of the people our age and older have gone through these things and have kept it, and they haven't dealt with it. They haven't talked about it. It also has to be processed. It has to be dealt with, so that they are
some
healthy
people don't
adults.
need deliverance. They just need to get their act together. Fiance to be patient deliverance. Just get
but you know, and you know,
I want
but
us
the
to
natural,
end. Yeah, quickly.
the natural reaction ought to be, this happened to me, I don't want it to happen to you. And then we're still, my favorite constituency, the church. This nonsense of you even also in the church saying, no, we can't talk about it, we're going to destroy the kingdom of God, must come to an end. The victims run to the house of God to seek protection, to seek comfort, to seek acceptance. Now, when someone reports to the church, I don't care if it's the archbishop, the prophet, the papa, whoever is touching that child, and you, the church, says, no, the man of God, you don't touch the anointed, all that kind of nonsense, that is rubbish. They must, even when the victims cannot get protection from their homes, their biological families, cultural issues, they should be able to get it from the church. We are supposed to be the salt of the earth, but we are the ones who are perpetuating some of this rubbish and trash that happens to people. The church must be reported. For me, if the pastor is the one that's the molester or is the one that says hush, hush, they must be punished double whatever a secular person is punished, because we have a responsibility before God to stand for the children and people of God and offer them protection and solutions.
Absolutely. Let's deal with internal shame. Let's look at the statistics. People are just not talking about it.
I like that. Internal shame.
Let's deal with internal shame. 1 out of 4. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of people are just not talking about it. And sexual molestation is not just the sex and the penetration, it's the touching, it's the exposing, it's the pornography, it's the violating of the innocence of a child, unwanted, unsolicited, unconsented. Let's talk about it. It's isolating. It's isolating. If we start talking about it and normalizing it, it's not normal, it's disgusting, it's sick. But if we talk about it, that it happens more than we are hiding it, it will be easier to expose those people that do it.
For wherever you're watching us from, it's important for you to find the resources where you can get help, okay? For those in Zambia, I understand the Zambia police has got a unit called Victim Support Unit. You can also go to YWCA, a Young Women's Christian Association. They do offer help. Mutinta has got a private practice. It's called Awesome Mind Psychiatric. Our website is up there. You can get in touch and find out if you need help with anything. she'll help you.
Mhm.
Of course, she'll also tell you how much it costs. We also need to learn to talk about those things.
Mhm.
It's not free
Normalize
service.
it.
We need to
Yes.
normalize it.
Yes.
Thank you. What we are going to do, Mutinta, I wrote something down. Men at the table. I think the next time we talk about this discussion, let's approach it from that angle and see where us men are falling short and what we need to do. Thank you, Matilda.
You.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Mutinta. Before we go, I wanted to share something with you. Some of you probably already know that I did lose my number one cheerleader. My elder sister died. She's the eldest in our family. She died on 19th February, 2 days after my birthday. And I just wanted us to, I wanted us to sort of like, have a special memory for her because she really supported and cheered me over the years. We shall see you next.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.